Okay.
Okay. So we're looking at um, some of the teachings that can be conceptual. One of them is anatta, which we translate as no enduring self. We translate it this way in our book. We often use that kind of flippantly, I would say, or just kind of a go-to when we talk about this Buddhist teaching of not self, non-self, um, etc. So really what we're going to talk about of, okay, that's the translation. What next? Where does it go from here?
Right. And so, because no enduring self, but we're reflecting on the self, and some Buddhist traditions say, don't even look at the self because it's not real. But no, we're saying, look at the self. And some of what we see is that there's some patterns of self that it seemed to have been here like forever, like all of our lives. And you hear parents speak of this about, they have a child and it seems like right from birth they display certain characteristics that seem to endure throughout the kid's life. But what about this? It seems like there is something that endures.
Hmm. And I feel like the teaching at times goes to our fantasy that which endures is just going to disappear or go away, especially if we don't like it or if it's causing harm or if it's irritating us. But that these patterns that we see that we identify as ourself, when we see them as patterns, it doesn't mean that they just fall or drop or change. And that seems to go against the teaching.
Right. And of course, some of these patterns we wouldn't want to fall or drop, but maybe change is a better word, at least in my mind. I mean, when I think of change, it's like, yeah, they're not solid. They're not, as we reflect upon them, we metaphorically breathe some air into them. We make them not quite just like, this is who I am and this is who I'll always be and I will never change. Now we're on to another teaching, aren't we? That
Right.
things are always changing. Another thing that can become a conceptual teaching.
Right. Right, exactly. And I think at times this is where it might creep in that we're not getting this teaching. We're not really a Buddhist, or how do we take on teachings that fly in the face of our experience, things that don't change, ways that we see ourselves that seem very permanent. Yeah, Nelly, I see you.
And,
And
and no, I lost my and in the process of opening my mouth. A pattern that seems to be enduring lately. But that's really the question we're going to be raising for the next, several days. I'm going to teach this week on Tuesday. Linda teaches tomorrow on Monday, as usual. But this thing about how often we're not really going to see the teaching in our experience, but that's another area for reflection. Like, how do you look at this teaching? How does it show up in your experience? How does it not really show up in your
right,
experience? How much are you just taking on the garb, literally, like putting on, the layer of the teaching, and trying to mask your experience, just like you might want to mask aspects of your body when you put on a piece of clothing.
right,
That's not what we're looking for. We're looking at really looking into our experience and really seeing how these teachings fit and
right.
when they don't.
And that really is through a lens that we hope we've been developing with the practice over time, through a lens of curiosity and kindness, that we're looking at, okay, our experience doesn't quite match this, but what is our experience saying? Can we be more curious about our views? Maybe they're not views that match up with Buddhism at this time, and maybe they're somewhere in between and they're hard to even articulate. But we are interested in knowing, what is that experience like when when your experience doesn't match the Buddhist teachings.
And I just want to say it might not match with Buddhism, but maybe that's the point to which to go back to adapt your views about the Buddhist teaching itself.
Mm, mm. Well said, Nelly.
And
We'll end here. Oh,
just 10 minutes after the hour, so maybe we perhaps
we'll end here.
hopefully whet your appetite for the topic. That would be good, because we'll talk more about it tomorrow and the next day.